So guys, 2024 certainly closed off with a bang for VR fans as we were treated to a barrage of amazing high quality titles in a shift that hopefully bodes well for the future of the space. But as I've mentioned in a recent video, it is imperative that 2025 maintains this same momentum. And first up on the chopping block today is a new VR adventure title named Arken Age that promises full-scale physics combat in a gripping full-scale narrative. Welcome to the simulation inside the simulation. I am tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager. And today we're going to be taking a look at Virtuvius VR's newest game, Arken Age, and determining if this is something you should play, buy today, or stay away from altogether. Arken Age is a VR adventure title set in the Biochasm, a terraformed fantasy world created by a great being known as the Grand Arborist, which sees you, the gamer, assuming the role of a lizard-like creature known as Anara, who are under siege by Hyperion's forces' neural corruption and must mine an energy source called Arcanite and regain contact with the Grand Arborist themselves. And right off the back, the first thing of note that I must mention is the quality of optimization that I've seen with my time with this one, as I'm now on my second excursion into the Biochasm so far, and I am happy to report that I have not experienced a single crash thus far. And on top of this, the overall fluidity and clarity of, well, everything has been remarkably sharp, as I haven't experienced too many lost frames at any given point in time, which is a nice change of pace from the unfinished buggy projects that seem to permeate throughout the gaming industry right now. But shifting gears and jumping right into the gameplay, this is a single player narrative driven experience that off of first impressions alone gives off a Stormland meets Dark Souls kind of vibe in terms of the open-endedness of the exposition, with gaps in the lore being filled via the collecting of memory logs and random NPC encounters as you venture further into this one's story. Now, from an actual narrative standpoint, I have to say that Arken Age is pretty solidly composed, if not just a tad cliche, but this actually works very well within the scope of this title, as the story does just enough to guide the player forward in their quest while allowing for the best parts of this game to shine, like the exploration and combat, with the former allowing for gamers to find various weapon schematics, ruins, and other hidden treasures along the way in a capacity that genuinely feels rewarding yet challenging and serves to add to what feels like a very well thought out and complete experience. But shifting gears to the absolute star of the show with Arken Age, the mother combat. And guys, the smoothness and quality of this one's optimization is on full display during combat instances, with the top flight AI definitely providing a genuine challenge to gamers, as enemies will look to hunt you down extensively as soon as they spot you, and particularly on heroic difficulty, they will not stop until one of you is dead. And the combat to be had here is probably the aspect of this game that initially drew my attention, as combat is a nice mixture of melee and ranged encounters, with most of my joy being felt by the sheer visceral nature of the melee combat, particularly with the physics quality being on full display here, guys, as blocking and counter striking both feel fantastic, with a bit less weightiness to the swordplay than something like Behemoth or Assassin's Creed Nexus. And it is worth mentioning here that Arken Age may in fact have VR's best parrying system, as oftentimes in VR I personally find it difficult to find that true sweet spot tracking wise in terms of successfully completing parries, but the melee combat in particular runs buttery smooth here, guys, so a big shout out to the dev team for that, and for making things like shields and grenades fun as hell and responsive as all get out. In terms of the gunplay, while perhaps not as sharp as the melee combat, it is in fact no slouch either, with there being almost unlimited options of what you can turn these weapons into, and this actually ties into something else that I've loved during my time with this one, the mod, crafting, and scavenging systems at large, as throughout your journey you will both find and purchase various weapon mods that make your ordinary base weapons absolute beast, as you can change pretty much everything from the barrels to the stocks, add scopes to special canisters that enable you to shoot plasma beams. This truly has been one of the more joyful VR experiences that I've had with regards to a crafting system, as they do things a little bit differently with Arken Age, and instead of the traditional read this from a recipe, go to a designated location, press a button and craft mechanic. They have you purchase different mods that you will insert at a modification station where you will physically have to place down your weapon, craft the mod, and then place the newly designed piece into its designated location. And while things like this may seem pretty small and insignificant, this really does go to add to the overall immersion that Arken Age is able to offer and provide to the gamer. As do the standout visuals, because I'm sure as you've been watching this, you've probably been saying to yourself, damn, the graphics actually look pretty good, and I'm happy to say that it looks just as good in headset as it does on screen, especially the outdoor and water areas, which look truly astonishing. And outside of a few muddy textures to be found, this one's vibrant colors really do pop, especially if you're able to run it on higher graphic settings. With things like foliage density increased to high, it really does make this one a whole different adventure. As does the sound design in Arken Age, which is also of very high quality and provides a relaxing yet perfectly matched background score as you progress throughout your voyage. But the last really positive thing that I want to showcase today with Arken Age is the absolutely phenomenal climbing mechanics that, in my opinion, is second to only that of Horizon Call in the Mountain for VR, as the climbing is responsive, it's sharp, it's definitely a workout, and quite frankly, it just works so well on so many different levels, as this is a game where you will be doing a ton of climbing, and it is good to see, with that being the case, that they took the time to optimize and polish this specific feature itself. But with the good comes the, well, this could be improved. And the most glaring red mark to me in this regard is the actual user interface itself, which uses the tried and true tablet method that has become popular gaming-wise in the last decade or so. And while this in itself isn't necessarily a negative thing, the overall interaction with the menu itself is just truthfully very clunky, with it oftentimes being a bit of a hassle, particularly as you're trying to take cover during combat, to grab an essential item such as a healing cluster, as well as accessing combat tools that you frequently need in battle, such as shields and grenades. They're kind of also placed in a weird spot, with the gamer having to tap the action button before the items float in front of them and requiring you to grab them from the air, as opposed to these items really being on the character's person. Outside of the user interface itself, I would say that while it's apparent that Arken Age is going the voiceless protagonist, obtaining lore and backstory throughout the journey via voiceovers and recovered memory logs method, I must note that at times this one plays very confusingly and seems to have this feeling of being directionless at times, even though there is technically always an objective to keep striving for. But these minor issues do not break up the overall immersion or fun to be gained by jumping into what looks to be 2025's first VR hit with Arken Age. But guys, as always with every single review we do here on the channel, we must ask ourselves the most important question: how fun is this game? And with Arken Age, it is a resounding all the fun, as the tremendous melee combat in tandem with the customization options to craft unique playstyles, as well as a decent narrative and red matter levels of out-of-the-box optimization, have Arken Age coming in at a very strong 8.8 out of 10, and is positioned as an absolute buy-today experience, as you will not be disappointed with this top-tier VR adventure that quite truthfully has the potential to stand amongst the best that the platform has to offer. And I'm very curious to see how the team continues to build upon what is already such a fantastic game. But that's just about all for today's video. A big shout out to the team over at Virtual VR for dropping a review copy on me, as I genuinely had a great time playing and will most certainly be replaying this one in the future. So be sure to smash that subscribe button to stay up to date on all things Arken Age. As always, I am tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager, and thanks for joining me in the simulation inside the simulation.